Imagine you had a family member or a friend that had a terminal illness and they were bound to a hospital bed or their house their entire life or the rest of their life. Imagine that they just have to lay there and die and you have to watch them. It's a scary thing to think about, and it's a really tough situation to be in. But think about if they no longer wanted to live and they were just too miserable to go on with their lives. What would you do if they were just low on hope and low on energy and they just did not want their life to continue? And they knew that they could die if there was any way possible. Well, lately there has been a thing that has made it possible for people to do that, and it's called physician-assisted death or physician-assisted suicide. I'm going to discuss what it is, why people would want to do it, and honestly why I think it shouldn't be legal. So the main question that I have is, should physician-assisted suicide or death be legal? And so I'm just going to really touch on that today. So the first thing I want to discuss is what it is. So physician-assisted suicide, according to a researcher by the name of Westerfield, is when a patient is given a diagnosis by a doctor and then they ask for a prescription of lethal dosage to end their life. And so there have been 1,878 prescriptions written and 1,386 deaths. And so I have a visual for that of how it's been trending over the past few years. So this is all of the prescriptions written and then all of the deaths that have gone through. And it's really interesting to see that. It's really eye-opening to see that as well. So CNN says that 3 states allow this to be legal. So that's Washington, Oregon, and Vermont. And New Mexico and Montana make sure that it is court mandated, so you have to go through the court system to have it considered legal. In Health Progress, Brian Hare said that up to 7 states have proposed this, and it's really expanding, and they really want this bill to be passed, and there's a high possibility that it will be passed. So that's really interesting to think about. It's actually called, the bill is called Death with Dignity, and it's called the right to die. So you have to, for eligibility, you have to be a resident of the state that it's happening in, so one of the 3 or 5 states mentioned earlier. You have to have a terminal illness in less than 6 months to live, so a doctor has to approve it. It's you have to go through a written request, and then you have to have counseling with the physician, and they have to determine whether or not you're really just depressed or if you are in a bad spot and your health is really bad. It is optional for physicians, so they don't have to do it if their beliefs don't match up with it. Dr. Jack Kevorkian of Michigan said that he administered a lethal injection of a muscle relaxant to somebody, and he was convicted of second-degree murder and delivery of a controlled substance, according to a researcher by the name of Clark. So it can be dangerous, and if it's not done the right way, it's not going to turn out well for anybody. And so physicians, patients, and families are aware of it, and they should be aware of the issues that can arise. So next I'm going to talk about why people do it and why they want to do this. There are so many different questions as to why someone will want to end their life, and it's strange, and it's confusing, and it's just unsettling for someone to think about it. They could be mistreated by a doctor, like physically or mentally or emotionally, or they can be mistrustful of their doctor. They don't think that they can provide them with the best care, that sort of thing. In November of last year, Brittany Maynard, she was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and she did go through with the physician-assisted death. She moved from her home in California to Oregon so she could die. And one reason, according to Nicole Egan, is that she said that the cancer had already taken so much out of her, and she just wanted to die with what dignity she had left. And many people would prefer to do that anyways. They want to have dignity when they die, and they don't want people to see them suffer. So finally, I'm going to talk about why people or why I think it should not be legal. I'm a person that values life, and I value people's stories, and I think everybody deserves to live their life to the fullest. I try not to bring my religion and my personal beliefs into things like this, and that it should just be like a medical thing, but I do think this is something that should be addressed and brought up. And so, as a Christian, I think that they are filled with a hope, and that Christians definitely are filled with hope. When there's sadness and there's trials, that we do have a hope that there is something great about to happen. And so it's kind of unsettling to see that Brittany was like, thanks, I just want to die, let me spare myself and make sure I look good doing it, type of thing. So it was really annoying. But a lady by the name of Kara Tippett, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she responded to Brittany and she said things like her life had meaning, and that she was not suffering for no reason. Her suffering was not the absence of goodness, and it wasn't the absence of beauty, but it can be a place where beauty can be known. And I thought that was a beautiful thing for her to say in the midst of her own trials, and that she was approaching death as well. But I think there are trials for a reason, and I think we suffer for a reason, and God can use you just like He used Kara, and how she spoke out and reached out to Brittany. And I think everybody does have a story to tell, and that you need to let your story be known, and ending your life before your story is finished is very cowardly, and it just shouldn't be done. And so in conclusion, I believe that people are faced with hard decisions, and that dying is never easy, but physician-assisted suicide and its availability should not be a reason to run from your problem and run from what's in front of you, because it could be an opportunity to show others and encourage others to embrace what's happening and to make a difference in others' lives and teach them to live life to the fullest no matter what state they're in. So physician-assisted suicide, I don't think it should be a thing, and I really think you should encourage others to speak out against it, even though it could be hard.